in the warm heart of Ouagadougou, amidst dirt roads and trees defying the scorching sun, a simple school holds secrets few dare to unveil. The bell rings loudly, but the noise echoing through the corridors is not of joy. It is of indifference, lowered gazes, voices whispering someone's name as if it were a sentence. In the teacher's lounge, while children run outside, a heavy atmosphere lingers, a tense silence broken only by muffled laughs of contempt. Among old blackboards and time-worn chairs sits Professor Mariam, her eyes weary, her posture dignified, but her soul wounded. Since the beginning of the year, she had been the target of malicious comments, subtle provocations, giggles that multiplied as she passed by. It started discreetly, a missing notebook, a sarcastic remark about her simple clothes, glances that turned away when she tried to share an idea. Then came insinuations of incompetence, questions about her rural accent, veiled jabs at her faith and humility. Gradually, Mariam grew quieter. Her eyes lost the morning spark, and her once firm voice trembled during weekly meetings. Yet she never retaliated. She responded with kindness, greeted each colleague, and offered smiles that masked her suffering. Her students saw in her a silent strength, someone who never gave up, even when the storm seemed endless. But that morning, something different hung in the air. The principal, with a hint of nervousness, announced that a special visit would take place that day. Today, we will receive President Ibrahim Traoré. He wishes to see the work of our nation's educators up close. The teachers exchanged anxious glances, adjusted their clothes, and hid disorganized notes. Some smiled with feigned confidence. Others whispered about who would be called to speak. Mariam felt her heart race, not with pride, but with insecurity. Of all days, why today, she thought, trying to conceal her exhaustion under a cotton scarf. The clock seemed to speed up. Outside, the footsteps of security guards echoed in the courtyard. Children were instructed to line up, and the school transformed into the stage of a spectacle where everyone vied for their moment in the sun. Then, under a deep and imposing blue sky, Ibrahim Traoré entered, accompanied only by a small entourage, without ostentation or excessive protocol. He walked slowly, stopping to greet staff, asking about their families, looking into each person's eyes, listening more than speaking. His presence commanded respect and serenity. Some teachers smiled, eager to be noticed, while others shrank behind papers, hoping to go unseen. But as he crossed the threshold of the teacher's lounge, Traoré stopped in front of Mariam. For a moment, time froze. He observed her in silence with the calm of someone who sees beyond appearances. "Good morning, Professor," he said, his voice deep and kind. Mariam stood, surprised, trying to hide her emotion. "Good morning, Mr. President," he replied, her voice barely a thread. He smiled and, looking around, asked, "May I sit here beside you?" A murmur rippled through the room, subtle, almost imperceptible. Everyone watched, but no one dared intervene. Traoré sat, fixing his gaze on the professor, genuinely interested in her story. "Tell me about your work, about the challenges of teaching here." Mariam hesitated, but the sincerity in his eyes encouraged her. With humility, she began to recount her journey. Born in a distant village, daughter of farmers, she fought to study, faced prejudice, overcame barriers, and chose teaching because she believed in education's power to transform lives. She spoke of daily struggles, the lack of resources, the silent prejudice she felt even among colleagues. "Sometimes," she said, "being different is seen as weakness, but it was my difference that taught me never to judge, to always help those who need it most." As she spoke, Traoré listened intently without interrupting. The room's silence was absolute. Everyone stopped to hear the voice that had once been ignored. Some colleagues lowered their eyes, ashamed. Others shifted uncomfortably, anxious. The principal, surprised, tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, but Traoré stopped her with a calm gesture. "This is what I want to hear, the truth of those who live the mission of teaching every day." Then, something shifted. For the first time, Mariam felt seen, not as the different one, but as someone with a valuable story. Traoré asked about her methods, inquired about her students' dreams, praised her resilience, her ability to smile despite hardships. "The country needs people like you, Professor. You are the foundation of our future." Those words fell like rain on parched earth. Mariam held back tears, while other teachers, who once mocked her, now exchanged silent, uneasy glances, confronted by their own consciences. The visit continued, but Traoré stayed close to Mariam, showing interest in the projects she had created with the poorest students, visiting the small makeshift library in her classroom, asking children's names, and listening to stories of families touched by this professor's care. "Teaching," he said, "is the most revolutionary act of all." His words echoed through the corridor, a call to everyone present. By late morning, a simple ceremony was organized in the school courtyard. Teachers and students gathered, parents summoned hastily, the sun shining fiercely over all. The principal, her voice trembling, thanked the president for his presence. But it was Traoré who took the floor, looking directly at Mariam in front of everyone. "Today, I met a true heroine, someone who, despite being scorned, chose the path of kindness, someone who believes that justice begins with respect for those around us." With steady movements, Traoré invited Mariam to step forward, holding her hand with respect. He introduced her to all. "Here is a professor who inspires me. The country needs to hear her ideas." The crowd applauded, timidly at first, then standing. Some students ran to her, embracing her, while other teachers congratulated her. A new atmosphere filled the air, shame for some, relief, and hope for others. Then, Traoré made an unexpected announcement. "I want Mariam to lead a new national reading project, bringing her passion and example to schools across the country. From today, no one will ignore her voice. Let it be heard. Let her story inspire other women, other teachers, other children." Mariam wept, not from sadness, but from gratitude. There, under Burkina Faso's sun, she ceased to be invisible. Colleagues who once ridiculed her now approached, some apologizing, others silent with tears in their eyes. The message was clear. Justice is not just a distant ideal, but a real gesture, a daily choice, a silent courage. As the news spread quickly through the school and the neighborhood, reactions began to sprout like seeds in fertile soil. In the corridors, voices once venomous fell silent under the weight of their own actions. Colleagues who had mocked Mariam now avoided her gaze. Feeling embarrassment dripped down their faces like sweat on a hot afternoon. One or two approached with a shy handshake, murmuring words of belated recognition. But Mariam, with the same dignity that had sustained her through months of humiliation, responded with a gentle smile, choosing forgiveness over resentment, hope over rancor. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Traoré stayed at the school longer than anyone expected of a president. He didn't delegate to others the role of witnessing that moment's impact. He made a point of sitting among the students, listening to their halting readings, encouraging them to dream big, urging them never to belittle anyone, for a person's true worth is revealed in adversity. His presence was one of quiet grandeur. He didn't need to raise his voice to be heard or demand respect to be admired. That day, he was not just the nation's leader, but a living example of what it means to recognize the invisible and restore the fallen. In the weeks that followed, Mariam became a local symbol of resilience and justice. The reading project she led gained national prominence. Neighboring cities sent letters seeking guidance, schools requested her presence at events, and radio programs shared her story. She was invited to universities and conferences, always carrying that same simple scarf, proof that it was not luxury or status that defined her worth, but the strength of her character. At the school, the atmosphere changed profoundly. Students grew to respect their teachers and each other more. A wave of solidarity, unthinkable months before, spread through the classrooms. Children who once stayed silent in the face of injustice now defended their peers, repeating phrases they'd heard from Mariam. "Never judge others, because tomorrow might switch our places." The power of that gesture, that public recognition, was felt in every corner of the courtyard, in every mural filled with new poems and stories written by the students. One late afternoon, as Ouagadougou's sky dressed in orange and red, Mariam sat under a mango tree, reflecting on all that had happened. She recalled the days she nearly gave up, the silent tears after cruel meetings, the prayers for strength. Above all, she remembered Traoré's gaze in that decisive moment, when she was treated with the respect she had always deserved. She understood then that true justice doesn't stem from vengeance, but from redemption. It's not applause that heals wounds, but sincere recognition and the chance to serve even more. That same evening, Ibrahim Traoré gave a national interview, and when asked about leadership replied, "Being a leader is not about commanding, but serving. It's about finding those left behind and giving them a new place at the table. A government's greatest triumph is when it makes the people believe in themselves again." He mentioned Mariam by name, reinforcing his commitment to supporting educators and all the country's invisible ones. The response was immediate. Parents across the nation called schools, moved by the prospect of a new era of respect and inclusion. Mariam's story gained traction not only in Burkina Faso, but beyond its borders. International news outlets reported the episode as an example of social justice and humility in times of global arrogance and indifference. West African universities began studying the case, citing it as a reference for transformative pedagogy and ethical leadership. Online, thousands of young people shared messages of support, inspired by Traoré's gesture and, above all, by Mariam's silent courage. Still, for Mariam, the greatest victory was not fame or accolades, but the return of a long-lost feeling, inner peace. She could walk the corridors with her head held high, greeting everyone with the same respect, aware that her story had awakened dormant consciences. And when a student asked how she endured so much humiliation, Mariam replied, "It wasn't easy, but I learned that suffering shapes the spirit. And when justice arrives, you must receive it with humility, not pride." On a special morning, months after the event, the school prepared a surprise tribute for Mariam. In the courtyard adorned with flowers and students' drawings, Traoré appeared again, this time unannounced. He embraced the professor in front of everyone, declaring, "Today, you are an example for an entire generation. You showed that true greatness lies in standing firm, even when the whole world tries to diminish you." The applause rang out loudly, and many colleagues, now friends, also stood to applaud her. At the ceremony's end, Traoré invited Mariam to address the children and teachers. Moved, she spoke of resilience, forgiveness, and the power of community. She urged the young ones never to mock those who are different, to defend those who suffer, to always seek justice, not the kind that punishes, but the kind that uplifts and transforms. In that moment, the transformation was complete. The humiliated professor had become the leader of an entire community, and her voice would resonate in the hearts of all present for a long time. At sunset, with the sky painted in gold and purple, Mariam walked through the school now brimming with hope. The silence that once wounded her had been replaced by laughter, looks of admiration, and respect. Ibrahim Traoré bid farewell with a firm handshake, leaving a legacy of justice and humanity. The story of that professor, marked by pain and resilience, became a symbol that even in the driest lands, justice can bloom. And there, among children, trees, and dreams, everyone learned that the value of a life lies in how it transforms the lives around it.